From the brief account of Aristotle's biography that we just gave, it's clear that Aristotle's life was in many ways closely connected to the politics of his age. He had the opportunity to view firsthand the workings of powerful kings and democratic assemblies. His views on politics are thus informed by his rich experiences and reflections on the political realities he saw around him. In addition to the politics, Aristotle wrote a series of works on the constitutions of different states. The only one of these that survives is entitled the Athenian Constitution, although there are some scholars who dispute its authorship. Another work relevant for his political philosophy is entitled the Economics, and it's sometimes been considered a part of Aristotle's corpus, but this too is a question of scholarly debate. Aristotle's work, The Politics, is his main surviving statement of his social-political theory, and it's not clear if this work, as it comes down to us, is complete, and there's a general consensus that it is in fact not a finished book per se, but instead student notes to lectures that Aristotle gave on the subject. At the Lyceum, many such lecture notes freely circulated among the students, and some of these might even have been more or less formalized as outlines for teaching the material in the classroom context. Thus, the Politics is probably a kind of textbook or an outline of one. In any case, the nature of the text is one that's been hotly debated by scholars. The Politics consists of 8 books, and its organization is not easy to discern. This has given rise to discussions about the integrity of the text. Particularly troubling are books 4 to 6, which seem to have a somewhat different character from the rest of the work. The end of Book 3 seems to introduce the discussion of the best form of government, which comes in Books 7 and 8. This has led to claims that Books 4 to 6 were later inserted into the text, and that the Politics originally consisted only of Books 1 to 3, and 7 to 8. It's argued then that these were 2 separate texts by Aristotle that were brought together into a single work at some later period. This view has been contested by scholars who are quick to point out the cross-references in the different parts of the work, which would seem to imply that it is in fact a unified text. Nonetheless, even those who claim that the Politics is a unified work must concede that it's still uncertain where in the text Books 7 and 8 belong. Some believe that they originally appeared after Book 3 and were then moved to the end of the work. In any case, the organization and integrity of the text is a complex and contentious issue. The work itself is sometimes considered the first systematic attempt to develop a political theory. Aristotle is particularly keen to evaluate critically the different forms of political organization known to the Greeks. The recurring question is what constitutes the best form of political organization. The work goes well beyond what we would consider a political theory, strictly speaking, including detailed discussions of topics such as education, sociology, and economics. The intended reader of the Politics is a person in politics, that is, statesmen, politicians, and administrators. The text aims to provide them with insight into basic political principles which are intended to aid them in their work. So, just as Thucydides' account of the Peloponnesian War is intended to serve as a source of useful information for people in the future, so also Aristotle's account of the Politics is designed to serve a primarily practical purpose. The goal of political life is what Aristotle calls the good, a topic that he explored in some detail in the Nicomachean Ethics. This means the good for individuals in a social context. So the point of political theory is to analyze the different forms of political organization in order to determine which of them are conducive to achieving the good in society. Which forms of government best allow people to develop their natural capacities and flourish? In the Politics, Aristotle thus explores the advantages and disadvantages of different political arrangements. Unlike most of the rest of Aristotle's corpus, the Politics did not come to the West via the Arab world. Instead, the first manuscripts of it appear in the 13th century from Byzantium. The work was translated into Latin and played an important role in the late medieval period and the early Renaissance. It was used by Marsilius of Padua in his famous work, Defender of the Peace. The Politics began to lose its importance in the wake of modern political thinking initiated by Machiavelli and Hobbes.